Well, joining us with her analysis on what's playing out in the market scene at midday is independent global market economist Boitumelo Letsuma. Boitumelo, good to chat to you once again. So much going on at the moment. Of course, the jobs numbers are out, looking better. We're edging down little by little. What are you seeing?
Thank you so much for having me, Ray. And we definitely are edging down little by little. This is, an economic data heavy week. And in South Africa, as you said, we did come in lower at about 31.4%. And this is the lowest reading in about 5 years. But it is still relatively high. And we must keep in mind that this measures, the number of people that are actually looking for work. And one of the things that she mentioned are about, youth unemployment being still continuing to be relatively high. And if you think about the occurrences from last week during the SONA, the State of the Nation address, we saw a youth from the NYDA calling for things to be done on unemployment and dignity, as well as economic inclusion. And so it would be interesting to see whether our president actually comes through with some of those regulatory changes, as well as, those programs that he spoke about during the address last week. But I think, we are heading in the right direction. I just hope that more can be done to curb this crisis.
Yeah, may it continue. Now, speaking of jobs numbers, the UK, and I always like to have a look at other countries because we're so focused on what's happening in South Africa. Well, the UK, not great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it came in marginally higher than expected, but honestly, this dwarfs like our own readings at about 5.1%, that being the unemployment rate. And this was driven by rises in the number of people that are unemployed between a 6 to 12 month period and just a little over 12 months. And so, it's compared, like you can't necessarily compare it because there's a huge gap in between. And UK wage growth also increased to its lowest level, to its lowest rate since 2021. And I think, this week there's more data coming out with inflation, as well as inflation particularly, being able to inform what will happen from an MPC standpoint. So that's also something that I'm looking forward to seeing.
Yeah. One of the other big stories from today has been Sirius Real Estate, and they've got this raising £77 million. They want to look at that property in Germany. In fact, they've been on Business Lunch before talking about that. They just continue to expand, don't they?
Yeah, certainly. This will allow the firm to pursue two attractive acquisitions. And just reading through that statement, the firm does believe that the market dynamics in Germany, they provide, a sound backdrop for growth and to pursue these acquisitions. And they particularly in the defense space. And I think, considering all the geopolitical risks that have been happening and a country spending so much on defense, it's very interesting that one of our own would be a benefactor of that spending, because they mentioned or they cited that government spending would be a tailwind to ensuring that this pursuit is actually yields good returns. So that was very interesting.
Yeah. Something else that's very interesting is Parks Tau. He has decided to look after our sugar industry and that very cheap sugar coming into our country. It's a major problem. Tonga Hewlett as well. Oh, they're battling at the moment. What's your take on that? Are we turning the corner now with our minister?
Yeah, I think the industry has really been facing quite a lot, those cheaper imports, especially around Eswatini. And there was also a pinch that they felt from the tariff impositions last year. And I think such reforms are essential to ensure, the future viability of the likes of Tongaat, as well as, even small businesses that operate in the sugar industry, especially around KZN, because there are a lot of jobs that hang in the balance. And so such rules are are good to protect, our industries that are important for our people.
Yeah, it has to be sorted out. But that is a very
Yes.
positive development. Right. BHP H1 results as well. What are you seeing?
Oh my goodness, that was beautiful. And I think it's really a testament to the current commodity price boom. It's great that the firm wants to keep trying to maximize value by increasing its production of copper, as seen in their guidance, and just seeing the 28% increase in basic earnings, as well as a 60% dividend payout ratio. I mean,
Sure.
that's a great day for any investor.
Yeah.
And so I think they're really benefiting from, the demand around copper use, especially within the AI space and the data centers. And yeah, one thing that stood out to me during looking at some of those announcements was the streaming agreement with the Wheaton Precious
That's
to
right.
deliver silver. And so the fact that they are able to continue to provide value to investors through other avenues is really a good sign for the company.
Yeah. Something else is making news headlines today on a negative basis. FirstRand facing potential UK finance probe. What is going on there? It could involve 13 billion rand. That's a lot of money.
Oh, goodness. So, yeah, I mean, FirstRand does offer financing through a business unit in the UK, and that makes up about 10% of its earnings. And they did make a provision last year when the news came out from the authorities, the Financial Conduct Authority in the UK, when they came out and charged the biggest lenders, including FirstRand, last year with this to
Yeah.
compensate customers on the missold car loans. And so, it's really interesting to see how the company had already had a provision, but now the fact that it's actually increased to about 13 billion. I mean, if you listen to what the CEO said previously about this, she spoke about how, this could actually spell the end of their presence in the country. And it could really hurt its business and its exposure to the markets.
Gosh, that really is concerning. Right. Boitumelo, hold
Yeah.
that thought. Before we move on to your stock pick, let's reflect on some of the counters that have found favor with your industry peers.
Yeah, my stock pick is Naspers, and that's just on the back of the fact that it's just been sold off so much at the moment. I mean, there's a time where you start seeing a share and you're just like, no, this is too cheap. I've never seen Naspers at these rates, and it is just purely because Tencent has been selling down in China on the back of the fact that they do not believe, the market does not believe that Tencent is spending a lot on AI and may be falling back in terms of its consumers.
The banks have recovered somewhat in the last quarter of last year and the first quarter of this year, but the insurers remain remarkably cheap. So as a sector, we like them overall. And in terms of execution and valuation, we like Sanlam in particular. We find that they are better at integrating the different business units and not having them not compete with one another, but distribute into one another. The cross-selling is incredibly effective. We like the fact that they've divested from SIM and have this arrangement with 91. We think there's a lot more potential there. And ultimately, you're getting exposure to both this SA business, on which we are more bullish given the metrics, and what looks like a pretty interesting fledgling business in India as well.
Right, so let's start with what Kira Bilwe had to say there with Naspers. I mean, Naspers keeps coming up. It's not the first stock pick we've had. They seem to be quite strong at the moment.
I was actually going to say, this is the must-have. Peers call this an anchor stock. A lot of peers in the industry call this a must-have. But I mean, I think, with the recent stock split, they've been able to increase accessibility of the stock to retail investors with the price coming down and not necessarily the value of the firm coming down. And I think, there have been considering the fact that there have been some share buybacks, the firm probably thinks that it's currently still undervalued where it is. And that also indicates that there could be room for more growth. And so this being one of our most preferred stock on our shores, I think, new investors still have a great entry point, because I did see it come down a bit. And yeah, I think, that's one to have in your portfolio.
Right, Sanlam, that's an old stock. It's been around longer than I have, I think. Your thoughts?
Me and you both, right? So it has, the diversified income streams. We've seen some of the income coming from the African territories as well as in Asia. They did expand to Asia, and just looking at some of what they did last year, earnings grew significantly, and just earnings growth relative to the PE ratio, I think it does make it look attractive. And with the firm consistently paying dividends, I think those who are interested in yield could really benefit from having this one in their portfolio.
Yeah, right. Boitumelo, what is your stock pick then?
My stock pick is Datatec. So this is an information, cybersecurity, and communications technology business. And much of its revenue is driven by its technology distribution unit. And for me, I just particularly like how it remains resilient, even in years where, the top line isn't necessarily strong. They are quite efficient at managing costs, and it's positioned to benefit from the global tech boom. And I think we could see some upside from its distribution and management consulting business. So that's my stock pick.
Love it. Datatec it is. Boitumelo, thank you so much. Good to chat to you once again on Business
Thanks,
Lunch.
Ray.
That was independent global market analyst Boitumelo Letsuma.